All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Konig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Konig Behind the Wheel podcast.
All right, we're live. Faruk Kugay, Formula Drift Pro Driver. Are you ready for a 10-question quickfire?
Let's do it.
Poland or Turkey?
Oh wow!
That's
started with the.
We're just gonna come right out of the gate and just smash it.
All right. So I speak Turkish fluently with a very heavy accent, but my Polish is not very good. But I was born in Poland, so that's a really hard one.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not gonna do that.
All right. He's pleading the fifth. The first question.
There you go.
First question.
Right?
He's already. First question. Plead the fifth. I love it.
There we go.
Drifting in the U.S. or Europe?
Oh, that's a good one. As a whole, I think European drifting I enjoy a lot more.
Okay.
As far as a scene in general, where you can go to a grassroots event in Europe and see some insane driving that will blow your mind and some really, really interesting builds because a lot of people build their own stuff there.
Right.
In the States, the programs are cooler. Like in the States, it's really racing, where it's like, not only in FD, but even if you go to Pro-Am events, people have a setup, which is pretty cool to see that, like, you know, they've got a whole program, you know, and
right.
that's pretty rad.
Okay. F82 or E92M?
Dude, I like the E92M. I mean, I'm an E92 fan. The newer Beamers are getting a bit big, and I think the E92 is like even a bit big for me. Like maybe a F22 would have been a little bit more my size. I like smaller cars, even though I'm a bigger dude. And I think I'm gonna go with E92M. Yep.
Okay. One drifter that you really looked up to?
So it's funny because so Kugay was the reason that I kind of followed the style of building cars I like, the style of driving I like, where it was just bonkers. I remember seeing Kugay, this must have been like 03 or 04 at Irwindale, and he had that RB powered yellow S13 that was, you know, claimed 720 horsepower or whatever, and I was, you know, then I was 20, 21 years old, and it just blew my mind. I was like, and it was just, I just remember being in the pits, just looking at that car for like 15, 20 minutes, just mind blown. And the fact that it was just about, he didn't seem to care if he won. It was just about putting on a good show and just driving the pants off that car.
Right.
And then watching like early Daigo stuff and then meeting Daigo later, like I'm a big fan of those two dudes.
Yeah.
James I've known for quite a long time. I've had the privilege of calling him a friend for quite a few years. So his style is very different than Daigo's, but the dude has mastered our craft. Like he's a machine in every sense of the world. So those three are probably the dudes I really look up to.
All right, that's interesting. So
what's you didn't expect Kugay? What's the
No, honestly, I really didn't know. I mean, there were so many. I inherently don't know you really, really well personally. Okay. So I guess I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I don't know. It's interesting.
So I guess for me, the reason I look up to like Kugay and Saito is because so the thing I love about drifting is the fact that you can stay full throttle on the corner.
Right.
Like no other situation in life can pretty much do that.
Unless it's a Miata, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Well, exactly. But then you're just full throttle all the time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But just that, I mean, that raw power and then being able to harness all that engineering in like this balance with style.
Yeah.
That's what I love about drifting.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of why I like those dudes.
So if you're given one car, money's no object to build the drift. What's the platform?
Oh man. This is really funny, man, because I haven't even told you about this, but I'm rebuilding my 14, my old 14,
okay.
that I used to call Race Till. And dude, different chassis have different characteristics. And as far as looks go, ever since I heard the murmur of the new Supra, I've loved that thing, right?
Yeah, okay.
And last night, this video comes out with Saito driving the 2J Supra, and with little exaggeration, I watched that video like 50 times, and it's so I love the 2 Series F22. That's my good homie Donovan's building one of those that I really like. I'd love to put a Turbo 6 in one of those. I love 14s, man. They're pretty rad. My E92 I love it, man. I mean, it's different though. It is a competition car. Like it's not as much fun to drive as the S14.
Right.
The S14, when we built it, I made sure that it had a really, really central polar moment, which sounds fun, but it makes it super, super hard to be precise because it just doesn't. The yaw rotation is different. It doesn't want to stay set. It always wants to essentially straighten, and it's kind of running away from you the whole time, which makes it a blast to drive because you have to throw angle. But that's not. It's not good for, let's say, FD. The way that car was built. So I don't know. That's not an easy answer, and it's not the fifth, but it's a convoluted answer. It's probably not as clear as you wanted.
It's all right. I'm sure people understand. That
all right. Different cars for different things.
Kind of segueing off of that, if you have, what's your favorite motorsport, or the one you would do if it wasn't drifting?
Snow rally.
Man, you're just hitting me with a whole bunch of things that I would have never guessed on.
So I haven't done much rallying, but I've done a lot of like instructional days and just like experience days with people just coaching them on different stuff. And one of the most fun times I've ever had on a track was in Poland. We rented a karting track for a bunch of guys that had WRXs and Evos, and I'd only driven maybe 2 or 3 times on the snow before that, but I'd been on that karting track before. And this guy comes with an Evo. He does a couple laps, and I'm trying to help him with some technique stuff. And he's like, "Why don't you drive?" I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And it was a blast.
Okay.
The amount of traction with the right tires in the snow is incredible, and it's just it's drifting but really fast and gaining grip, and it's entertaining, and it's a riot.
Regular snow tires are like studded tires.
We used regular snow tires, so not studded tires, but just regular ones that are a little bit more porous.
Right.
So, yeah. You guys must be used to that out in New York.
No, we're not allowed to use the studded tires.
On the road.
No, the
might
snow
make
tires.
New York roads even better, right?
The thing about driving in New York with the snow is that you're fine as long as you don't stop.
Yeah.
Right. which is usually the one guy that closes the whole thing down. You know what I mean? Just that deliberate. Whoop, check the brake, and then everybody slams into him. Yeah. So plus we're tough. We have big 4-wheel drive vehicles for no reason, and everybody thinks that 4-wheel drive also means 4-wheel stop.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
In your career, your pro drifting career so far, what would you say is your most satisfying moment thus far?
That's a tough one, man. There hasn't been too much satisfaction.
Well, listen, I understand where you're coming from with that statement, but I also think that there's gradual levels of every single career and kind of graduation, right? Is there a moment coming from Pro 2 to Pro 1? Is there a moment in kind of looking around and being like I'm here? Like, you know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Is there that?
No, so there were 2 moments. There were 2 moments like that, I guess, where I felt satisfied as a driver, where I felt like I might be able to catch up with these boys. And then there was some moments that were satisfying as a team member. And so the one that's satisfying as a driver was 2016, my second pro event. It was with I went against ESSA in the top 16 in Atlanta. And the car, I had a huge wreck in Long Beach that year because everybody was hitting the wall, and I didn't anticipate how slick it was going to be around the second corner and backed into the wall. Car was totally effed, and Marcus Fry and my boys they put it back together, and we got back out there. And then going into Atlanta, I don't know. I just kind of threw it all out. I went into the kitty litter like 10 times, but I finally figured it out. And it was funny because it was, I wasn't used to people slowing down that much, where the Pro 1 cars were so fast that, you know, they would drag race you to the initiation and then they would just stop. Yeah. And then there's so much grip and power that then they would speed up again. And so I was either slamming into people like Matt Field, where I just plowed into him. Right. He, on initiation in top 32, I was going to initiate behind him, and then he slows down a lot more than I would have because I don't have that amount of power and grip. So I just and the same thing with Essa, where like behind Essa, I give myself a gap, and then I close the gap right after initiation, but I'm attacking him so fast. There's a funny video of this where I just in my mind I was like, I'm not going to hit 2 people in 2 battles. I'm just not going to do that as in my second pro round. So I bailed. I went into the kitty litter, which was no surprise to anybody. But it was the intention was not to destroy S's car. Right. And then on the lead run, it was fun where I felt like I actually ran a good run, and it felt like we were battling, which is cool. And then the second one was probably the battle with actually Osbo that same year in Texas, where you know Osbo's a really, really amazingly technical driver. You know, right. he does what he wants with that car. Yeah. He's really, really controlling that car. And his run up to initiation was not something that I was used to. He's a lot slower than what I was used to. Right. And so I get to the initiation point, and I'm about to initiate and waiting for him pretty much, and then I have to kind of get back into it. But in the lead, he slams into me in the back, where I slow down in a no slowdown zone, just because I had trouble stretching it to the inside clip, and he takes off the back end of my car. I still transition. He hits my water pump. The motor blows around the last corner, but we keep going. And right. It felt like I don't know, with all that stuff going on, it felt like driving with friends, right? Because it's like no one. I don't know, just keep going. You know what I mean? And that was a cool on-track experience. I know that sounds like a total mess from the outside, but it was a cool experience to be in from the driver's seat.
Well, I also think that there is some satisfaction level of the fact that no matter what it is, you leave it on the line, you put it all out there, and you put on a good show for everybody that's sitting in the stands, you know?
Yep. No, and that's, I mean, a lot of this whole thing in Pro 1 has been a reminder that, like, what's the point? You know, there's two reasons to be in Pro 1, right? One is to push yourself to a personal level, and then the second is to be an entertainer.
Right.
And, you know, when we become entertainers as drivers, that's when hopefully we get the funding to be able to do this as a full-time career.
Right.
Because then people are watching us enough to, you know, just as an actor would be on stage, or, you know, a street performer could be on the corner. If they're entertaining people, they're going to get paid. And it's just a matter of where you are in your career and the reasons you're doing it. And right now it's more of a personal goal for me. And people still seem to really like to watch me drive, because it is entertaining no matter what happens. It might be a total mess, but it's fun. And so, yeah, that's kind of, I guess that kind of answered that question.